Hi folks, Travis Fox here with foxoptic.com. Today we're going to be taking a look at how to set up a ballistic profile in the Stream Vision Ballistic app from Pulsar. I'm going to be showing you how to set up the profile in the app, how to transfer it over to the scope, and then I'm going to take you outside and show you how to do a zero in that scope and effectively be able to use that profile. So I'll be right back with you. Okay, what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and pair the app to the scope over here. So the first thing I'm going to do a long press on the side encoder button to get into the main menu. As you can see, I'm going to roll the encoder to get to the Bluetooth section. Short press to open that. And then in the Bluetooth section, you can see the first thing is the Bluetooth activation. I'm going to short press to activate that. And now I'm coming down to this Bluetooth pairing icon. I'm going to short press to activate the pairing mode. Then I'm going to jump over here to the phone and I'm going to open up the Ballistics app. I'm going to go to Devices and Add Device. Then I'm going to click Connect Device. Wait for it to find it, and then I'm going to hit Connect. And then as you can see, I hit the connection there. And it said that it connected, but then it immediately lost it. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to close that down. I'm going to turn around and I'm going to come right back in and reopen that. I'm going to come back over here to Devices and just give it a minute. And so this device has already been paired, so I didn't have to put the password off the screen into it. It paired itself, and you can see now by just simply shutting the app down and reopening it, it has paired itself. So effectively I'm paired to that scope now. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to get my glasses on here, and I've got the data sitting right here in front of me of what I need to put in to create the profile. So I'm going to jump in here and we're going to click, I clicked Profiles down on the bottom tab. And then now I'm going to click to add a new profile. We're going to name this profile. And so in the particular case of this one, it's for, I'm going to be setting up using this Hornady V-Match 6.5 Creedmoor bullet here. It's a 100 grain ELD VT. And I've got all the information for that here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to give it a custom name. And my custom name is going to be 6.5. And then I'm going to call it HORN for Hornady, and then 100 GR, and then this is going to be suppressed, so I'm going to put SUP, and that's in the long name. That's just so in the long name, so I've got a way of looking inside the profiles and having a pretty good idea of what I'm dealing with there, you know, in case I've got several of these in the app. I'm going to give it a short name. The short name is what I'm going to view when I'm inside the scope in the lower left-hand corner. It's going to give me something to very quickly look at as a reference to know which one which profile I'm on. And that can be handy, again, if you have multiple profiles inside of a scope. To be able to give those a name. So in the case of this one, you're only allowed 5 characters on the short name. And so in the case of this one, I'm going to call it 6 and then S. The S is going to kind of stand for 6.5, but also stand for suppressed, and then 100 for 100 grain. And I think that'll be easy for me to remember it. I'm going to be using the X50i reticle in this. And I want to use a solid green color, so I'm going to hit the blue check mark to accept those 2 items. I want to make sure that my ballistics parameters tab is turned on. It's going to be a custom bullet that I'm entering because I don't believe it's in the catalog list. So I've already got the information off of Hornady's website for this ammunition. Your bullet manufacturer or potentially your powder manufacturer is going to give you that data, like some of the data, you know, you'll be able to get it in a combination of those if you do loads, or probably from your bullet or ammunition manufacturer most of the time. So, you know, most of this information, along with some of it, you'll have to get from the gun itself. So we'll go through the list here. Ballistic coefficient on this particular load is a 0.239. So we're going to enter that. We'll make sure we hit the blue check mark to accept it. It is a G7 profile rather than the G1. So we're going to hit the check mark to accept that. Muzzle velocity is in foot per second, so I'm going to drag that down to switch to foot per second, and it's 3,200. So I'm going to hit the blue check mark there. I am going to put the spin drift information in. Spin drift, the default is 100 grain, which happens to match up with this load. The length that I have is in inches, and my length is 1.289. So I'm going to enter that. Again, tell it that I'm done and hit the check mark. And then the caliber, it's 6.5 Creedmoor, so that's going to be a .264 diameter. And so I'm going to tell it that and hit the check mark. Again, as I'm going along here, I'm making sure that I'm getting this information correct and that it's being saved properly. My twist rate is an 8-to-1, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that. It is right-hand twist direction, so that's already correct. The scope height, I know in inches. That's simply a measurement. If this were on the rail like this, basically I take a line measurement from the center of the bore to the center of the tube, and that's going to give you what they call overbore sight height. So in the case of this one, it's on a standard co-witness mount that's 2.4 inches over bore center. So I'm going to make that 2.4 and check that. And then the zero, in the case of this one, I'm going to be zeroing it at 50 yards. So I'm going to switch this to yards, and I'm going to switch this value to 50 and tell it that I'm done. And then I'm going to check mark that. And then currently outside our ambient air temperature, it's in Fahrenheit, so I'm going to switch that. It's 90 degrees, so I'm going to check that box. Barometric pressure, 29.77 is what the app's giving. I believe the app pulling that from my localized data, but it's actually, I'm saying 29.9, so it's pretty close. It probably would have been acceptable. Humidity is off quite a bit. The humidity is 72% currently. Okay, and so I've got all of that correct, and as you can see, like I'll kind of scroll up through the parameters and I'll just run through them real quickly here. I've called it 6.5 Hornady 100 grain SUP, short name 6S100. I picked the X50i reticle in a green color. Ballistic parameters are turned on. My ballistic coefficient is 0.239 on a G7, which is correct at 3,200 foot per second. 100 grain bullet weight, 1.289 inch long projectile, 0.264 inch diameter, 8-to-1 barrel twist rate with a right-hand twist direction, 2.4 inch rifle scope height or over bore center, and then 50 yard zero, and our ambient conditions and temperatures are set right. So I'm done, and I'm going to hit the check mark to save that, and you can see where it's now at the top of the list and it's saved. So all I have to do to put it into the scope, now don't mistake this to be that this is zeroing. Obviously we're going to zero here in a minute, but all I have to do to load it into the scope is pick a location that I want to load it into. So I've got the scope right now set up on the D profile. That D profile is just an open profile, and that's where I want to be putting this ballistic profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click here on the devices tab. I'm going to click on the device from my list that I'm going to be working with. I'm going to click on profile. And then you can see there where the blue check mark is on my D profile. I'm going to click these little red arrows right here that are chasing one another, and there is my list of profiles, and you can see at the top of the list is the one that we just set up. And so I'm going to choose that from the list, and now you can see where not only is that listed in the device profiles that I have set up on this scope in the D profile position. So basically it's overwritten the D position. The D position no longer exists, and there's a new profile in the D position, which is that 6.5 Hornady 100 grain suppressed load setup ballistic profile that I'm putting in. And the only implication there to the suppressed, it has nothing obviously to do with the load, but it's a note to me when I do the zeroing that that's my suppressed load. So I may do one unsuppressed. I may follow up and do another one where I'll have slightly different POI on the initial, and it'll essentially be all the same ballistic parameters, but I'll have a little bit different XY coordinates, and so it kind of requires me to have two different profiles for that load with and without the suppressor, because my start origin is going to be a little different based on whether I do or don't run the suppressor. So that's the reason for that SUP. Essentially another profile without the suppressor will be the same profile. It's just the Y coordinate will be different because I won't get, let's say, 1.5 inch POI drop with the suppressor in position. So just be aware that's kind of where the naming comes in and can be pretty handy. So we've got it loaded over here. We're going to take this thing outside and we're going to do a 0 on it. And once I get it zeroed in, we'll show you how that thing works. I'll be right back with you. Okay, folks, I'm going to show you how to do that 0 now on the profile that we set up. Effectively, if you had already, if you already had the gun zeroed, let's say on A profile, or D in this case, I think it was, could have just loaded that ballistic profile over top of that and it would have kept those 0 coordinate values, the XY coordinate values. But because this is a brand new application, I have not zeroed yet. We're going to go into that profile and we're going to actually 0. I've got a target set up down there, and on that target, I actually have a couple of hot hands and put some foil tape on there so that I'll have some different things that I'm able to see on that. As you'll see through the scope here in a minute, can actually see the grid work pretty well in the target because of the differential between, the white paper reflecting the light and the dark red absorbing it, so you're able to see that grid pretty well. But let's get started here. First thing we're going to do, I'm going to do a long press on the side encoder button over here, and we're going to go into the reticle and zeroing menu. In the reticle and zeroing menu, you can see up here in the profiles where I can pick the profile that I want to be in. Obviously, I've already picked that via the ballistic app, so it was already highlighted, but I just want you to see that. You can see that it's retained my reticle choice and the reticle color choice that I made in there. We're going to go down here, so I'm just rolling the encoder to get into the position I want. We're going to come into that 50-yard 0 that we established. I'm short pressing to open that. As you can see, I've got 3 options here. I'm going to short press on zeroing to get into the XY coordinate menu here, the zeroing menu. And so in here you can see where I have the windage elevation movement subsection of the menu, magnification, the freeze frame, and then there is where I could change the distance name that I've given it if I needed to. But we're going to be in this windage elevation menu the whole time. I'm not going to need to use this magnification or freeze frame. There's a couple of shortcuts on the scope here. If you hit the plus button over here, it's going to do the same thing as the magnification function, and hitting the REC button over here, a short press, is going to do the same thing as the freeze framing. There's a couple little menu shortcut buttons here. I find that much easier than dumping in and out of that menu, so that's going to allow me to kind of stay focused just on the windage elevation section of the menu. So first thing we're going to need to do here, we'll make sure we're ready to go. Take me just a second here. We're going to line up on that target. I'm going to zoom it up just a tiny bit because I've got enough targets on there. I know I'm going to be on that paper. So we're going to take one shot and find out where we're at here. All right, and you can see right up there where our bullet impact was. So quickly, I'm going to freeze on that target. And that's going to allow me, you can see where I did the REC button press to freeze on the target. I'm going to roll up here to the windage elevation subsection. I'm going to short press to open that, and that's going to allow me to start moving my X. I'm going to go ahead and roll it over here till I get about lined up with that bullet impact. I'm hoping you guys can see that as well as I can, but I can tell clearly that the bullet impact is about in that location right there. So You can see what I've done there is I've stayed lined up on the middle of that target that I aimed at initially. We'll call that the bullseye. I've got the red X moved up to the position where the bullet impact was. And then effectively, I'm going to do a long press. So what I did there to switch between, before I get there, let me explain this to you a little better. You can see there where I'm in the X coordinate. So when I'm rolling the encoder, I'm actually adjusting that left and right. And then when I short press here, it jumps to the Y axis, which is allowing me to turn around and dial that up and down until I get, you know, right on that bullet impact location, or as close to it as I can get. Once I'm there, I'm gonna do a long press on that encoder button. You'll see now where the reticle jumped up to the X location. I'm still froze, but I'm ready to take my next shot. So what I've got to do up here is hit the REC button again to unfreeze. So now you can see my image went back to live in the scope, and effectively, I'll be ready to take the next shot. So we're gonna go ahead and put another one in there. We're gonna line up on that. I'm gonna go on the hot hand here again. And we're gonna take that shot. I'm gonna jump over here because I can see that one there. I'm pretty sure I hit the hot hand or close to it. Yeah, I'm right in the hot hand there. So I just wanted to be able to show you that. And you can't see it obviously in the thermal. That's why I've got this other scope set up over here with the daytime. One thing I will mention to you here while we got just a second, as you can see, I'm running this little Garmin Zero chronograph down here. I highly recommend, if you don't have one of those things, I don't even sell that thing, but I'm gonna give it my thumbs up of approval. That's probably the slickest thing I've bought in a long time. It's invaluable. Like give you an example, in this particular load, Hornady's given 3,200 foot per second, but running the suppressor, sometimes you'll see quite a bit of variation in the load speeds versus the box ammunition. If I'd pop that suppressor off, I'll guarantee you my velocities would be a little higher than that. So having the chronograph really helps when you're setting up the ballistics information. You know, your trajectory line is going to be better if the more accurate your information is, so the better performance you're going to get at the longer ranges. So essentially now we've got that set up. I'm going to take another shot here just to kind of confirm that we're happy with the zero that we've got there. Let's go ahead and put another one in there. I got to jump over here so I can see. Yeah, you can see there where they're pretty much figure eighted. I think, you know, based on the heat signal that I'm shooting into, you're going to find that that's probably pretty tight considering everything with this gun. And I would say that we're probably zeroed good enough. If it was mine, you know, obviously I'm going to sit here and I'm going to shoot a couple 3 or 4 shot groups and make sure I've got everything nailed out. I'm not going to go to all the time of that on the video to show you, but effectively we've got that in there. We've got it taken care of. So now what I would need to do is one additional long press over here on the side encoder button to save that information. So I'm going to do one additional long press, and you're going to see that zeroing coordinate saved, and then that dumped us back one position in the menu. If I don't do anything at all again here, it'll time out and it'll drop back on its own. Had I needed to make additional adjustments, you know, as simple as I could have stayed right in that windage elevation menu and just essentially wash, rinse, repeat the same process. But like in the case of this, where I'm shooting into that wood backer, I could see the heat off of that bullet going through there. Now, if you're shooting into a plain paper, obviously might not be able to see that. I have guys that call me and say, hey, what do I do in that particular instance? Generally, in that instance, what I'll do is I'll take, you know, depending on the distance that I'm at, I'll take and cut myself, say, a 2-inch square of that aluminum foil, and I'll put that right in the middle. Like, let's say I would go ahead and shoot a 2 or 3 shot group, confirm my group center, and then I would put that piece of foil in the middle of that. But basically, we've got this set up and everything is zeroed. I hope you found that informative. If I can ever help you with anything on this, and or any of this process, you have any questions, feel free to call me toll free 877-806-2977. I sell these Pulsar devices obviously on my website, which is www.foxoptic.com. We have some great packages over there. Obviously love to do business with you. If I can ever help you with anything, either give me a call or check us out on the web. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Okay, so I had just a little bit of extra time here. I wanted to show you this ballistic calculator working. So I'm out here at the range. I got a target down there. I'm gonna take a couple shots at back there at I think it's 470 something. We'll range it and I'll show you how this thing's gonna work. Didn't have one up in it, I guess. Let's step over here and make sure those are showing up. Yeah, hopefully we can see the impacts there. Let me pop over here. We'll go. I think I'll be able to see that gong there. See if I can see that any better. Okay, so I hope that gives you a good idea how that's going to work. Hopefully you can see some of that footage between what I shot here and through that Dig-X. Thanks for watching.